Okay, I think we can start now. So, good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Ministry of the Economy and Lux Innovation, I welcome you to this informative webinar on calls for projects for the installation of photovoltaic power plants. Today we will be discussing two calls for projects that were both launched at the same time on the 19th of July 2024. The first call for projects that we will be discussing is the operating aid, which is open until the 29th of November 2024. And the other call for projects is the investment aid for the installation of photovoltaic power plants for self-consumption. This one is open until the 31st of October 2024. This webinar is designed to answer all your questions about these calls for projects. To do so, we have three speakers today. We have Claude Clemens, who is part of the Renewable Energy Projects team at the Ministry of the Economy. And we have Sophie Klecker and Christian Pauli, who are part of the State Aid team at the Ministry of the Economy. I myself am Lori Ensch. I'm an advisor within the National Funding Team at Lux Innovation. And before handing over to our speakers, I will just give a quick overview of the agenda and what to expect during this webinar, which will last approximately 1 hour and a half, depending on the questions, the amount of questions that we will have. So we will begin with a presentation by our speakers, and this will be followed by the Q&A session. You can already write your questions at any time during the presentation using the questions tab, which should be located in the upper right corner of your screen. And we will try to answer the questions either by writing or verbally after the end of the presentation. Lastly, I would also like to inform you that this webinar is being recorded. The replay and the slides will be made available on Lux Innovation's website after the webinar. You will also receive an email containing the recording and the slides. And now I will hand over to Claude Clemens, who will begin with the presentation.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for being here in this webinar. You can hear me, I suppose, if I see that right. Okay. So yes, as Lori said, we are exposing the general context for our two call for projects regarding photovoltaic plants. One with the operating aid and the other one with investment aid. Yeah, first of all, a little bit of general information around the topic. With these two calls for projects, the ministry wants to promote photovoltaics in general. Why two calls at the same time? This is meant to leave the choice to the companies depending on their needs and expectations, but as well as regarding their specific situation, regarding electricity consumption and surfaces available. So everybody can choose between the two types of state aid, which is, yeah, the best one for his undertaking. The investment aid is a subsidy. That means a single payment on commissioning of the plant. And the operating aid, you get the right to make a market premium contract, and you have a minimum guaranteed income over a period of 15 years for the electricity that is injected in the grid. There's also now a multi-annual calendar, which is indicative and which can be found for both call for projects in the links with information for the calls on guichet.lu. All the links, you have them on the last slide of this presentation, which will also be shared after this webinar. So why a call for project, a competitive procedure? Well, that is to comply with state aid requirements, and the general approach there is to give state aid via a competitive tender. Cumulation is, of course, excluded between different forms of state aids. So for these two calls, one project cannot be submitted to both calls simultaneously. That's quite clear, I think. So everybody has to decide which call he will apply for. Then there are two other forms of state aid. It's a temporary aid, the temporary environmental impact aid scheme for small and medium enterprises. This is for capacities from 30 to 60 kilowatts. There's no cumulation possible with both of the tenders. And you have also for the capacities from 30 to 500, there's no cumulation possible with a guaranteed fit-in tariff, which also exists. A few new elements regarding calls for projects from the past. The ministry has introduced new lots for power plants mounted on the facades of buildings, and also power plants using light modules installed on the roofs. This is because these two forms of plant have higher specific costs, and so they have now an innovative lot for themselves, let's say, to compete. The light modules is to overcome potential static deficiencies of the building, and these deficiencies have to be established by a consultant an engineer bureau to the need to use these modules has to be shown when submitting. Regarding the specific costs, the specific lot for carports is maintained, of course. Other new element is the financial guarantee that is now required in both calls for projects, but only for plants with a capacity above 500 kilowatt. This is also due to state aid provisions, and it is meant to guarantee a high realization rate of big plants that are important to reach Luxembourg goals in regarding decarbonation and energy transition. This guarantee must be issued by financial institution after the project is awarded. The amount is 35,000 euro per megawatt installed, and the guarantee is returned, of course, after commissioning. So photovoltaic power plants produce electricity. What to do with the electricity produced? Well, the former tenders were earmarked to self-consume the electricity. That is no longer an obligation, let's say. Well, it was never a real obligation, but it was the first thought. So electricity can be used in every form which is possible and allowed, let's say, by the law for the organization of the electricity market. So self-consumption, sharing electricity via collective self-consumption or in an energy community, injection, PPA. So all options are open, and That's also to allow every undertaking to submit regarding their needs and their possibilities. In case of self-consumption, you must also have contracts to sell the surplus of electricity, which is very important. This has to be guaranteed so that no electricity is entering the grid without any contract what to do with it. In the case of call for projects with an investment aid, the electricity can be injected, and to sell it on the market, this is only possible for suppliers or people undertakings who have the right to act on the electricity market. So normally this means you have to look for a supplier who sells the electricity for you on the market. So this has it's important to inquire price offers before the submission, because this affects your offer you are willing to submit. In the case for the call for projects with an operating aid, the surplus of electricity injected in the grid is remunerated following the two established contracts you have in this call for project. That's one contract with the grid operator for the market premium, and it's an obligation here to have a contract with a supplier or another authorized representative to directly sell on the market. One topic which is quite important in the case of self-consumption also is your consumption profile. This will change as a self-consumer, and there we recommend also strongly to contact your supplier to evaluate the impact on your existing or future electricity supply contract, because you will normally need less electricity supplied. Also regarding self-consumptions, if you are installing a carport, this could possibly be linked to charging points of the same owner as the carport, and this will be considered as self-consumptions. Okay, these provisions were common to the two calls. Now let's start with operating aid call. It's already the sixth one. The ministry started with that in 2018. You can submit offers for power plants on rooftops and facades, so the external envelopes of buildings. Carports, shade structures, as already mentioned, and also on water basins. That's meant to be floating plants. And there's also the possibility to install plants on industrial sites following a definition specific to this call for projects, which means this can also be Greenland in a few cases. For example, disposal areas, but they have to be in the PRG of a municipality. There's also zones de bâtiment et d'équipement public, which are eligible under this point. Greenland in economic activity zones. And yeah, that's it. So it's you can check the exact definition, of course, in the cahier des charges, in the tender specifications. But it's important to note that all these industrial sites have to be in the PRG of a municipality. Greenland in the green zone, the zone vert, is not eligible. Participants in the call can be all physical or moral persons. The maximum capacity to be allocated is 50 megawatt. Submission is open until the end of November, and the granting decision will be released at the latest 2 months after the submission deadline. That's normally late January, early February next year. Eligible installations are divided into 5 different lots. Industrial sites with a maximum capacity up to 20 megawatt for one plant. 2 rooftop categories. The carports, as known already, and a new lot, which I explained already, innovative, on buildings for rooftops with light modules or modules on the facades of the building. The 50 megawatt capacity is divided, as you can read it here. Yeah. So some important elements which are obligations. The power plants have to be new plants. There's an obligated completion date of 18 months after allocation. 24 months are also possible, but then there is already a penalty on your contract. Okay. You don't need to have all your authorizations required for the installation when submitting. These authorizations can be acquired after the allocation, but of course, we recommend to make your inquiries already when planning your project. So after the allocation, that's one job you have to do, get your authorizations. For the grid connection request, we strongly recommend to do that really before, because it can happen that this will have quite an important impact on your price offer. As already said, for plants over 500 kilowatts, you have to submit after the allocation a financial performance guarantee. Of course, you have to conclude your contracts, market premium contract with the grid operator, and very important, the contract with the supplier or another authorized representative for the direct sale of the electricity on the market. This is a point which is somewhat not always very clear, but it's not only the market premium contract you have to conclude, but also a contract with the supplier. So the maximum amount of the aid, in this case of the operating aid, is a reference remuneration you give in your offer per megawatt hour of injected electricity. The maximum prices you can see here, and the ranking will be made on the best price. That's the only criteria. Classification will be made by ascending reference remuneration. And in case of equality of this amount, smaller plants will be ranked first. If there's also an equality, then drawing of lots will be done. It's a competitive procedure, and state aid provisions also foresee then that there's a competitiveness clause. So if lots are undersubscribed, projects at the end of the ranking can be eliminated. There's also the capacity in the possibility in this case, if lots are not fully subscribed, to transfer capacity volumes to other lots. Yeah, as I said, the market premium contract, you sign this with a grid operator. That's a standard contract according to the provisions of the relevant country regulations, and which is also approved by the regulation authorities, the ILR. The amount of the market premium is the difference between your reference remuneration you submit and a theoretical monthly market price, which is called MV Solar. It's a German price index, as Luxembourg is mostly interconnected with the German grid. And on the last slide, you have also a link where you can check this monthly price index. Regarding these contracts, there's also a new element. The text of the Grand Ducal regulation has been amended regarding the negative price hours. The new provision is better than the one before, let's say it like that. It's in favor of the producers. So if there are negative prices on the market premium will be zero. So this means normally that you shut down the plant during these hours. But, and that is new, all these periods of time will now be added at the end of the 15-year contract. So the contract you have will be 15 years, and all the period of times with negative prices will be added then afterwards. So the second contract you have to conclude is the one with the supplier, who is allowed to make their direct sales of electricity on the market. This contract can be freely negotiated between both parties. Normally, as an undertaking, you have to make it this way with an intermediate. So there will be a service fee, and therefore it's important to inquire this also before the submission, because you have to know all the impacts on your pricing, and yeah, as an intermediate is an obligation, you have their service fees, and as said, the contract can be freely negotiated. So you really we strongly recommend to do all this before the submission. And as a conclusion on this topic, this means also that the market premium you get and your revenues from direct sales, as the MV Solar is a theoretical monthly average price, there can be a difference with your exact reference remuneration you give in your offer. Yeah, and of course, to be as clear as possible, if market prices are above your reference remuneration, yeah, market premium is 0, but then you have more revenue because the market price is higher than your remuneration. So that's for the operating aid. Call for projects for investment aid is at his 3rd edition in this year. The ministry started that in 2022, and it was quite a success. And so this aid instrument is to be continued. We have here the link where you can check the previous calls, the results. So that you can have a little idea of how that was in the past. The power plants eligible here also have to be on the external envelopes of buildings on Greenland in economic activity zones. And let's say Greenland in a broader sense is not eligible in this call. And then also carports, of course. This call for projects is specific for undertakings, so physical persons are not eligible. Only moral persons in the form of SR, SRL, or cooperative. These moral persons have to be established in Luxembourg, have an economic activity as their main occupation, invest, of course, in the plants, and meet every other general conditions that apply in this matter. This call has not a maximum capacity allocated, but a maximum budget, which is 23 million euro. And submission is open until 31st of October. Grant decision here will be done at the latest 3 months after the submission deadline. So both calls will have their results at the same time, late January, early February next year. Eligible installations here are also divided into different lots. Rooftops of buildings where you can add spaces, let's say Greenland in activity zones if available, and with no other use. Carports also as in the previous calls, and also here a new lot for plants with modules on facades or light modules on rooftops. The maximum budget is allocated to the different lots, as you can read it here. Obligations are nearly the same as in the other call, so it has to be new power plants. Completion date is 18 months after the allocation. Here also you don't need to have all authorizations when submitting. You can do that after the allocation. Here also important the grid connection, which we recommend to do before submitting to know if your price is possibly affected. You have also to submit after the allocation a financial performance guarantee for plants over 500 kilowatt. And here also important in case of self-consumption, the surplus of electricity injected in the grid and sold on the market, you have to conclude a contract with a supplier of your choice. Maximum amounts and ranking. The maximum amounts, there are two of them: maximum aide intensity and a maximum aide amount in euro per kilowatt of capacity. Both limits have to be respected. And the maximum aid amount in euro per kilowatt will also be the ranking criteria. It's also on the best price, so ranking is made by ascending reference aid in euro per kilowatt. In case of our quality, smaller installations are ranked first. And again, in the case of double equality, there will be drawing of lots. There's also a competitiveness clause in this call, and difference to the other one. In every lot, no single economic entity may receive aid for one or more projects in an amount exceeding 40% of the budget per lot. This is also due to state aid provisions, and it's important to note it's 30% in every lot, not of the maximum amount of the total call. So here's an example in the lot 3. We have here a few projects with their total project costs, the amount of aid requested, the intensity of the aid requested, and the reference aid, which is the ranking criteria. So, and here's then the ranking. I think it's quite clear. For the competitiveness clause, it's important to note in case of under-subscriptions, at least 10% of the submitted eligible offers are eliminated. And in the case of this example, when there are less than 10 offers, at least one has to be eliminated. And you see also in the example, one example of reference aid in euro per kilowatt, that is the same. And then the smaller plant is ranked first, the one with 600 before the one with 900 kilowatt. Okay, so then for the investment aid, the payment of the aid procedures are also an important topic. Payment is made after commissioning and presentation of the invoices. If you are allocated a project, you get an individual decision on that, which references the intensity and the amount that are determining for your ranking, and these cannot be exceeded afterwards. Regarding this, there's one important thing. An amendment of the capacity is possible, but then ministry can recheck the ranking of the project within the lot or the sublot, and you can't in this case first you can't amount your capacity and changing lots, so you have to stay within the capacity limits. And if with the new capacity the ranking might change, you might lose also the right to get the subsidy. Eligible costs in this call are, let's say, nearly everything. Storage is also included with a capacity of no more than 1 kilowatt hour per kilowatt peak installed. Engineering and development costs are also included. Grid connection. And in the case of the carports, of course, the elements to be mounted. And that's also an element to be emphasized, because we already had some questions. The plants have to be new plants, as said, and for the carports, that means also the supporting structures and the modules have to be new and to be built. So that was it for my part. So I can hand over to Christian, who will detail a bit on the procedures on guichet point lu, which is important for the call for projects with an investment aid.
Yes, thank you, Claude, and also welcome from my side. In the following, I will give you some information about the submission procedure that will be done via our MyGuichet platform. So if you also require some support in this procedure, feel free to contact our colleagues from Lux Innovation that can help you also on that thing. There are two major points to be respected, namely that the application must be filled before the start of the project, so there must not be any kind of binding commitment that would question the incentive effect of a state aid before the application is filled, and also the applicant company must not be an undertaking in difficulty. So on the MyGuichet platform, you need to create, if you don't have, you need to create a business e-space and then search for the right procedure, which in this case is the MECO procedure, financial aid application for companies. And then in the following, in the submission procedure, you will be asked certain type of information that you need to provide, which include, for instance, information about your business, size of the group, financial situation. And so also in the following, I will go more into detail into the specific scheme that you need to choose, the information of the cost that you need to provide, and about the supporting documents that we would need to have in order to carry out the analysis of your application. Well, regarding the aid scheme, it's important that you choose the right one, because we have several ones that are possible. In this case, you would need to choose the environmental protection aid schemes, and then later on, you need to choose in the second step, the investment in the production of energy from renewable energy sources. And then in the last step, you will be asked if you would like to participate in the photovoltaic call for projects, and then you need to click on yes. So that's very important, because if you don't choose the right one, it could be that we will not see the application, and that it cannot be, and then it is possible that we would not take it into account. Regarding the costs, you will be asked about the type of costs and also the amount. So here you would need to choose as a type of cost machinery and equipment, and then there is a box where you can fill in description of the costs, and later on also the amount of the total costs of the project, as well as the renewable energy production amounts, and very importantly also the capacity, so the installed capacity of the installation. That is needed in order for us to also calculate the specific ratio requested aid per kilowatt peak, on the basis of which we will carry out the ranking of the competition. Further, you would need to indicate the aid intensity that you would like to have, and also the specific amount of aid. that in the end is required from your side to carry out the project. Please make sure that the aid intensity and also later on the ratio that is calculated directly on the basis of the aid intensity and the installed power, that those two figures are within the limits of the specific lots that are set for this call for projects. Otherwise, your project will not be taken into account and is not eligible for this for state aid. A few words on the supporting documents that you need to provide during the course of the submission. So you would need to have a mandate that you are allowed to complete the procedure. You would also need to provide information about the organizational, about the organizational chart of the total group, so also including any linked and partner companies. Then we would need to have the 2023 annual financial statements of the applicant company, but also of all the other linked and partner companies within the group, in order for us to carry out the financial analysis and also to check whether you fulfill the criteria undertaking in difficulty. There are some other documents that we would need to have, like an RIB or also a certificate that informs about the number of employees. Important is also to provide a certificate that informs about the right to use the site, and if available, also a price quotation of the installation, of the photovoltaic installation. In red, we have also a number of documents, of Excel documents that you would need to fill out. These are annual financial statements of the applicant business and also of the group, a template about the company size, and very importantly, a description of the project. All these templates can be found on the dedicated Guichet LU site, where you have to click on the right link and then you will have access to the zip with the different Excel templates. Now a few words to the description of the project template. Here you see a screenshot of it. So we will ask about a certain question about the project, for instance, type of usage, if you use it in a self-consumption mode, or if you also intend to inject a certain amount of the produced electricity into the grid. These are kinds of information that we would need to have. Then you would also need to give us some more information about the specific site, about the building, about the carport, and so on and so forth. And again, you would also need to fill out the aid intensity that you require, and also the total cost, for instance, of the project. We have put into this Excel sheet some warning indications that in case if your numbers that you have indicated fulfill not the maximal aid intensity and also maximal ratio that is allowed for a certain lot, then there will be a not okay indication, and you would need to review your information that you have indicated. There's a second sheet in the template which we would ask you to fill out. It is a simplified business plan that gives us some information about the profitability of your installation, and that gives you also valuable information about a possible return on invest. As indicated already by Claude in the beginning, here on this slide you find some useful links that will provide some more information on the specific thematics of this call. Well, now I will hand over to Lori again in order to guide us through the question and answer section.
Okay, great. Thank you. So indeed, we are at the end of our presentations. Thank you very much for the insightful information. If there are any more questions from the audience, you can write them down in the questions tab in the upper right corner of your screen. Normally, it should be located there. There were some questions that are already answered in written. Maybe I can just repeat that. So the presentation was about 2 call for projects who have different end times. So for the operating aid, you can submit your application via MyGishi until the 29th of November. And for the investment aid, you can submit your application until the 31st of October. And then I will also hand over to Claude again, so he can give some more information about the light modules.
Yes, thank you, Lori. That's a little detail, but an important one that I forgot to mention. Yeah, for the light modules, as stated, the need to use the need to use these models has to be proven. And so there are some indicative values in the tender provisions, but these are only indicative. So we give there an example that they have to weigh less than 5 kilogram per square meter, and that the thickness is below 10 millimeters. Well, we noticed already that there are some modules on the market which are not in these limits, but which are nevertheless acceptable. So in case of doubt, we recommend to contact us via the emails on the slide that you see. And so the ministry can make a statement afterwards. Anyways, we recommend for the light modules that you join a data sheet when you submit your offer. So that's what I wanted to add regarding this point.
Okay, thank you, Claude. We have an additional question in the chat regarding the investment aid. Will it be possible to participate multiple times for one industrial site but different roofs? So the example is there's one roof with the date for 2024 and roof 2 for 2025-26. Claude, do you also want to answer this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, the example as it is written there is possible if you have only one roof with a project ready this year. You can make you can install a plant on another roof in the next call for projects. If I understand the question right.
Yes, in case it's not very clear, feel free to always reach out to us afterwards so we can discuss specific cases individually and directly with you.
Generally speaking, regarding possible multiple projects, there's one question in the frequently asked questions document, question and answer 1.3, where there are a few examples which explain this topic. But as I see, okay, I got it right.
Okay, perfect. So these were also all of the questions. Again, if you have other ones, feel free to reach out to us afterwards. And if no one wants to add anything else, we can finish here. So thank you to our speakers, Claude, Christian, and Sophie in the background for your contributions. And thank you thank you all to our participants for joining and following this webinar. I hope it provided you with the information you were looking for. And then also to summarize, so there will be a replay of this webinar on the website from Lux Innovation. You will also receive an email with the link to the webinar and the slides. And yes, we remain open for your questions even afterwards. And thank you very much. I wish everyone an excellent day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.